Welcome back, guys, to another Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra video. Today is a massive day, as it is going to be the release of the game, and we will officially get our hands on the full version of it. But prior to that, they did go ahead and release the version 1.10 patch notes, so we can go ahead and take a look at all the changes that they're planning on making in comparison to the prior version. This is the main reason why I didn't want to make any videos about, oh, you guys should go for this character, you guys should go for that character, before we actually got into the full game, because a lot of things are going to change. Some people are ignoring that and they're making videos about the divine cards and characters. But honestly, if you guys want to check those out, we have prior videos uploaded on that. You guys can go ahead and do that. I will get you guys an updated version of that once we get our hands on the game, that we can have the latest information and are able to make the best decisions with what is actually in the game. Now, that is enough yapping. Before we continue, another thing I want to touch on is that the game will be going live, because I know a lot of people are going to be wondering, when are you going to be able to play the game? When do we get our hands on it? So I know a lot of people are going to be wondering about that. But because of that, I just want to go ahead and address that right now. The game currently is available to be pre-downloaded, and when I logged onto the game earlier, this is what it said for when the game will be available. So, in accordance to this, based on when this video goes up, this time means that 11 p.m. PST is when the servers will go live. So 11 p.m. PST, that is 2 a.m. EST, is when you'll be able to get into the game. If you guys want to convert that into the time zones, you guys can go ahead and use that. But with that being said, you guys will be able to play the game at 11 p.m. PST. Now, let's break down these patch notes, see what they adjusted, see what they left untouched, and just overall see what kind of health state we're looking at when we get into the game. Now, the first person to get a buff here is going to be Son Gohan Kid. Shocking. I was one of the few people that did say Son Gohan is probably the worst character on the roster. Borderline unusable. And a lot of people wanted to argue with me on that, but he is probably the one that got the most massive buffs out of these entire patch notes. So, the buffs to him is that he will be getting a base HP adjusted to increase more easily during the match, making it easier for him to tank. Now, his friendship boost will give an all attack up effect to allies. Instead of it being 300, now it's going to be 400. The rush attack that he has during exploding rage, his rush attack damage is now going to be 40 times 6 more. So now instead of doing 600 damage with his rush attack damage, he's going to be doing overall at least, that's 240 more damage on his rush attack bonus. Skill 2, his Masenkyo, is getting a buff to its radius at level 1, and at level 2 it's also getting a radius buff. Level 3 is being left untouched. His level 3 skill, which is Leave This To Me, this is how he transfers his friendship basically. His energy defense down effect to enemies within the barrier is now going to be increased by 200, and the damage and the energy defense down effect to enemies within the barrier is going to be adjusted to persist for 2 seconds after they leave. So even if they exit the range, they're still going to get hit by that. Now, his ultimate is getting a cooldown increase, which will be a nerf, but the strike attack up to ally heroes is getting a 200 buff. The strike attack effect to allies is being shortened, though, to 8 seconds, and then the defense buff is being increased by 100. That overall is a massive buff to Gohan. A lot of his numbers are going up across the board. His supportive capabilities are getting better. His individual damage is getting better. The only real nerf he sees here is the duration on his buff, as well as the cooldown on his ultimate, both of which are very minuscule, so it's not going to make that much of a difference, even though they are nerfs. Now, Dabura is another one people were saying, oh, he's so OP, he has petrification, but he was one of the weaker DPSs on the roster, and it was very evident. But he did go ahead and get a buff here. His HP has been increased because he's a melee character, so he needed a little bit more HP. The Doom Ray that he has is getting a damage nerf. It's going from 900 plus 450, so the first instance of it does 900, second instance does 450. That's going to now do 810 and 360, and at level 3 it's going to be 1200 and 600. Now it's going to be 1080 and 480. So he is getting a nerf on his Doom Ray, but the buff here is that his petrification gauge, it'll be much easier to get, because now it's going to be 49 on the first hit, 14 on the second hit. Prior it was 40 on the first hit and 15 on the second hit. You do only need 100, and this is now going to be giving you damn near all of it just off of that one attack. And the other thing too, his Super Attack Evil Blast, the petrification gauge, is now going to be getting 10 more. So if you do basically just Doom Ray into ult, that will now petrify people. So that is a very, very strong combo. Prior to that, it would leave them at 80, and then you'd have 95, and you'd still have to basically one normal attack on everybody to get it off. But now you're going to be able to get that just off of those 2 skills. Super Saiyan Trunks getting a slight buff, 5% damage buff to his all attack, and then he's also going to be getting more HP. Piccolo, another one. Very few people are able to play Piccolo effectively. Tax, my boy, #1 DPS on the leaderboard, is one of the few that can, but he is getting a kind of, it's more of an adjustment here, honestly. It's not just all buffs for him either. His energy blast range is being increased at level 1 and level 2, making it a little bit better in the early game. The energy blast speed is being decreased from 136 to 75. The reason that is a buff is because that means his energy blast is going to be coming out faster. That is why that is going to be really strong. We will have to double check that though, because this could be an overall nerf, because as you see, as it levels up, it goes 37, 70, 136. So it's still kind of staying in that similar road, but now it's half at level 3, which could be honestly a nerf. They are making it to where his energy blast is actually coming out slower, meaning that you'll have to be more accurate with it to get the actual value from it. The energy blast damage at all levels will be now unified. It used to be 2,500, 3,500, 4,000. Now it's just going to be 2,520. That is another nerf there. Skill level 2, the super explosion damage has been decreased from 380, 120 to 280, 840. This is the little balls that Piccolo spawns around, and they kind of like control the field. Those are also now going to be doing less damage. Now, the distance at which damage increases per skill level has been adjusted. So now he's getting 7.4, 1427 to now be 9.9, 9.25, 7.95. The reason that is important there is because this will make it to where now he's a little bit weaker earlier, but the distance at which his damage is going to be increased is going to be shorter. So you don't have to land the shot to be as full range, because prior it was if you didn't land the Hellzone grenade at a full range, the light grenade, it did not do a crazy amount of damage. But now you'll be able to get more damage out of it if it's shorter range. So again, this is a buff and a nerf for Piccolo. He's not just getting one or the other thing. So he's going to be more or less about the same, but he is getting a slight increase and decrease in certain departments. Frieza getting an HP buff, heavily needed. That was one of the biggest issues with it. Probably one of the only issues besides the way his cooldown works. And they did also make his cooldown lower on his ultimate. This will fit very well in with the tower push playstyle that Frieza has, but it's still going to make him very weak in team fight. So you have to be very careful with that. Now, this is one that I'm very excited for. It is Full Power Bojack, one of my favorite characters. I was super excited for him to come to the roster, and he was increasingly disappointing. So now he's getting a buff, and we will see what he is getting here. He's getting an HP buff, which is nice. That would help him. The HP buff is always nice. He gets a 5% damage buff when he transforms his all attack. His support units will now appear at a fixed order. The reason that's good is because now you're able to like tell what your subordinate is going to be doing, because each subordinate has a different effect. So now you know which one's going to be coming next. So that's actually a good change there. And the stack-based scaling of enhanced follow-up attacks is removed for consistency. That's good. Now he'll just do a certain amount of damage throughout all of them, rather than having to like, this guy's going to do more than the last guy, then the last guy's going to do more, and now it's just going to be more unified. His ultimate is getting a cooldown reduction. That I don't think is going to be enough. Overall, though, Bojack, I think he's definitely going to be better, but I think his ultimate still sucks, and that's the biggest issue with him is his ultimate. So, not the greatest buffs for Bojack, but he should still be able to put in some work for us here. Super Saiyan 2 Khalif is getting a 5% damage buff to her all attack, nothing too crazy. And now the big one here is the nerfs. The nerfs are very, very big here. So, Baby Young Body, one of the most despised tanks in the game, getting a massive nerf here. When he pops his skill 2, his movement speed during activation is decreased from 100% to 75%, making it easier to kill him because he won't be able to move around as frequently. The damage is decreased from the initial shockwave and the aftershock. The initial shockwave now does 50 less damage, and the aftershock also does 50 less damage, so overall 100 damage nerf. And the cooldown is way longer. 3 seconds is very big in the team-based game. Now, skill 3 possession, this is another big nerf here. The self HP recovery to himself over time is going to be now 0.75 seconds, so he'll be able to heal himself more. However, his possession duration is lowered by 2 seconds, so he'll come out of it faster. And the lifesteal effect that he gives to his possession target has been gutted by half. That is a massive, massive nerf there. The half the lifesteal, because prior the 50% lifesteal, you were able to literally 1v5. It was crazy. But now you will not be able to do that because of the 25% reduction there. And his ultimate damage per shockwave has been decreased. and his HP recovered for each hero hit has been more unified. Before, he used to get 50, 60, 70, 80, depending on how many people he hit. Now, he only gets 20 per person. So at most, now he can get 80, which is still the same as before, but he's not going to be getting like 50% for just hitting one person now. If he hits only one person, he only gets 20. That'll make him much weaker in 1v1 situations as well. Another big nerf here, Android 18. She's getting an HP buff to start off because she is a melee character. That seems to be a across-the-board kind of change that they're doing there. But her passive Assault Rush will no longer provide stacks, which is a big thing because that was one of the easiest ways for her to get her damage, is to just stack people up with passive. Now she can't do that. Her skill 3, Axel Dash, has overall been decreased in damage massively. It is now doing less damage at every rank than it did prior. However, she's getting a bonus effect that while reactivating, if she gets a kill, then on her final Axel Dash, the number of possible reactivations will now increase. That is a very interesting change because the way that's kind of worded, it makes it seem like if she gets like a crap ton of kills by her final Axel Dash, then she gets like a permanent increase to her possible reactivations. I don't know if that's going to keep stacking or what's going to be happening with that, but I think that's an overall worth it trade. She does a lot less damage, but she can dash more often. I think that's a worth trade there, but that could be getting out of hand quickly depending on how much of an increase she does get. Her ultimate is also getting a cooldown increase, so she can't just, decide, hey, I don't like you, so you're not going to exist as good. So that's going to happen less often now with her. The Masu, for some reason, is getting a nerf, even though he was already kind of mid in the last beta. He's getting more HP. His cooldown on his ultimate is getting more, and the movement speed is getting nerfed even further. I don't know if the problem is that Zamasu's too weak or if the other tanks are too strong, but I'm not sure I agree with a Zamasu nerf. And I definitely don't agree with a Majin Buu nerf. They're nerfing his skill 3 to not have the no skills effect, which was like the best thing about his skill 3. So I don't think that's very in tune either. I think Majin Buu needed a buff more than a nerf. And Cooler here is allegedly getting a nerf, but his HP is being increased by 3,000. His base HP is also adjusted to increase more easily during the match. And he's getting a 5% damage buff, right? These are all good things, but the only nerf here is that Cooler's ultimate now, oh my god, his ultimate does have 5 more cooldown and does 500 less damage. I personally don't think that's a nerf at all. I think that's a very good buff. I think Cooler having some more durability is a very, very good thing for Cooler. I don't think he really needs it. I don't think the damage nerf really matters because he's much more of a utility-focused character anyways. And he's still going to be doing very good damage because everything else is still untouched. So I don't know if I would really consider this a nerf. I'd say this is more of a buff, but that is what it is. Now, big one here. I know a lot of people wanted to see this. So Krillin is getting a nerf. His base HP is adjusted to increase more easily during the match on outset, making it easier for him to have more HP consistently throughout the match. His mines are now going to be a second longer on cooldown, and then the energy blast explosion and the secondary explosion damage is overall going to be decreased. The regular damage before was 1260, 1400, 1680. Now it's going to be 1080, 1200, 1440. So even at skill 3, it's only going to do a bit more damage than it does at skill 2 right now. The secondary damage is also going to be doing very similar, a little bit more damage than it does at level 2 currently. So overall, I mean, that is a good nerf. The marked effect time is shortened from 7.5 to 5. That is also a pretty big nerf for him. The homing energy blast damage has been increased though. So if you're very good with his skill 3, you'll get some value out of that. And the big nerf, honestly, I have to say this is the biggest nerf, not even the mine nerf. The mine nerf is kind of tame, to be honest. But the Destructo Disc is now going to have a 20-second longer cooldown. That is going to be a very detrimental feel for sure. The 20 seconds on Destructo Disc cooldown, that is going to be rough. That is 100% going to be rough. Now, here's the adjustments, which is where I feel like a lot of these buffs and nerfs should have been. Goku's getting another 5% damage buff, and his cooldown on his Spirit Bomb is being increased by 10 seconds. I think Goku's already fine as it is. Him getting a buff is good for him. Vegeta is getting to be having more HP, which is good. Vegeta was kind of squishy. He's getting a 5% damage buff, and his Big Bang attack is also going to be 10 longer on cooldown. Again, I don't think this is going to help Vegeta. I think Vegeta needed more. Vegeta was very weak compared to the other tanks. Goku, I think, was very in tune with the other DPS. I don't know why he's getting a buff, but he is. And someone here who should have been nerfed, because he was really, really strong, is being left untouched, and that's going to be Super Oob, who's all he's getting is a buff to his HP, so he has more HP easily in the end. I think Oob should have been nerfed a lot harder, but it is what it is, man. Now, Nappa is gonna also, these are now battle system changes. These aren't characters. So Nappa is gonna be giving his rush attack damage boost effect now is being increased from 20 to 30%. So you're gonna be taking, Nappa has more value now, right? Andrew 16's movement speed has been increased by 15. Jocko's skill damage has been increased. All three of those buffs are now more impactful. I'm surprised Ribrianne's not getting a buff. Ribrianne was, I think, the weakest of the three, and she's the one not getting a buff. That's kind of weird. God of Destructions. God of Destructions will now prioritize heroes rather than accompanying characters such as Jory and Zarbon. That's more of a Frieza nerf than anything else. And a timer has been added near the God of Destruction to indicate the time until Zeno arrives. That's a nice little quality of life that'll help some people that can't keep track of Zeno. It's not bad for sure. The Helper Ride, similar to skills, activation direction can now be chosen with directional input. That's a cool little change. The defense buff Helper has its cooldown reduced by 30 seconds. That's going to be very impactful if you utilize your buffers correctly. The Gekishin High cooldown reduction rate, that is a divine part, I believe, has been increased from 25 to 50%. That's massive. That is massive. Lightning Swift has been nerfed. It's going to be doing less damage. But Snowball is getting a buff! Snowball now gives 25 more attack per use. Chat. I think these changes are like 75-25. I think a lot of them are very good and very in tune with what was needed. But some of these changes I think are definitely out of tune. But can't always have like a perfect patch. I think this is still going to be a very good patch. Very solid release update here for sure. We'll have to see what Great Ape does still. The Great Ape is not mentioned here. But overall, I do think these are some very good changes. I'm pretty happy with this. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. With that being said, this is Wise, and I'll see you on the Rank 1 grind.